micronutrients and chest imaging. So, if you haven't watched part 1, I would advise you to, because it will make more sense, and I'm not going to do the same introduction. And yeah, without further ado, let's get it on. Let me just check the sound, as always. Okay, once more, guys. Micronutrients and chest imaging is our subject for today, and this is part 2. So if you haven't checked part 1, make sure to check it out, and let's get going. So ChatGPT, we left off the previous episode talking about B1, B12, and B2 vitamins as absorption site. And just a sec, guys. Yeah, we were talking also about the mechanism of absorption and the site of absorption of these B vitamins. Can we talk a bit more about B12, cobalamin?
Sure. Vitamin B12, or cobalamin, is primarily absorbed in the ileum, the last part of the small intestine. For absorption, it needs intrinsic factor, a protein made in the stomach. Without intrinsic factor, B12 can't be absorbed properly, leading to deficiencies.
Can you explain to us what haptocorin is in the first place? So what's the etymology, semiotic, semantics of this word?
Absolutely. Haptocorin is a glycoprotein that binds to vitamin B12. The term hapto comes from the Greek word haptine, meaning to bind or attach. Corin refers to the corin ring, which is part of the B12 structure. So haptocorin literally means something that binds to B12.
What
It's
is this?
also known as...
So is corin ring a part of B12 then?
Yes, the corin ring is a crucial component of vitamin B12 structure. It's a large, complex ring with a cobalt atom at its center, which is essential for B12's function in the body. The corin ring is what gives B12 its unique chemical properties and allows it to participate in vital biochemical reactions.
And remind us how pepsin and HCl are involved.
Sure. Pepsin and hydrochloric acid, or HCl, play key roles in releasing B12 from food. HCl in the stomach breaks down food proteins, while pepsin, an enzyme, helps release B12 from these proteins. Once free, B12 can bind to haptocorin for safe passage to the small intestine.
And so when we have this B12 haptocorin complex, what happens?
Once the B12 haptocorin complex reaches the small intestine, pancreatic enzymes break down haptocorin. This frees B12, allowing it to bind with intrinsic factor. This new complex then travels to the ileum, where B12 is absorbed into the bloodstream.
And does it get degraded by pancreatic proteases?
Exactly. Pancreatic proteases degrade haptocorin, freeing B12 so it can bind with intrinsic factor. Yeah, it's a fascinating process.
Interesting. So this free B12, it combines with an intrinsic factor?
Exactly. Once free, B12 binds with intrinsic factor, forming a stable complex. This complex is then absorbed in the ileum.
Interesting. And what makes this B12 intrinsic factor complex, like, absorbed by the ileum?
So, the ileum has specific receptors for the B12 intrinsic factor complex. These receptors recognize and facilitate the absorption of the complex, allowing B12 to enter the bloodstream and be utilized by the body.
And why do we need calcium ions present in this situation?
Calcium ions are crucial for the final step of B12 absorption. They help the B12 intrinsic factor complex bind to the ileal receptors, ensuring efficient absorption into the bloodstream. It's pretty intricate, right?
Yeah.
Glad you're finding it interesting.
And so, what about folate? What's folate?
Folate, also known as vitamin B9, is a water-soluble B vitamin essential for DNA synthesis, repair, and methylation. Folate is crucial for cell division and is especially important during pregnancy for fetal development.
Interesting. And what's the mechanism there then? How does it what's the mechanism?
Folate is absorbed in the small intestine, mainly in the jejunum. It gets converted to its active form, inside cells. THF acts as a coenzyme in various metabolic processes, including DNA synthesis and repair.
For
Its
instance,
absorption
what processes? What about 5-methyl THF and 5,10-methylene THF?
5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, 5-MTHF, is the active form of folate involved in methylation, crucial for converting homocysteine to methionine. 5,10-methylene tetrahydrofolate, 5,10-MTHF, is involved in DNA synthesis and repair.
You mentioned homocysteine, so explain to us how homocysteine is involved then. Yeah.
Sure, homocysteine is an amino acid that builds up in the body. High levels can be processed for maintaining cardiovascular health. This conversion reduces homocysteine levels, lowering the risk of heart disease.
Explain to me a bit more.
Alright, so homocysteine is a byproduct of methionine metabolism. If folate and vitamin B12 are sufficient, homocysteine is efficiently converted back to methionine. If not, homocysteine accumulates, which can damage blood vessels and increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. Folate's role is to provide methyl groups for this conversion, keeping homocysteine.
Okay.
It's a crucial balance.
Let's talk a bit about fat-soluble vitamins now. We have, let's say, A and D and E, right?
Absolutely. Fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, and E are absorbed with dietary fats and stored in the body's fatty tissues. Vitamin A supports vision and immune function. Vitamin D is crucial for bone health. And vitamin E acts as an antioxidant, protecting cells from damage. Which one would you like to dive into first?
A, please.
All right, vitamin A is vital for vision, immune function, and skin health. It comes in two forms: preformed vitamin A, like retinol, from animal sources, and provitamin A, like beta-carotene, from plants. Your body converts beta-carotene to vitamin A as needed.
What's this carotene? Does it come from carrots?
Exactly. Beta-carotene is a pigment found in colorful fruits and vegetables, like carrots, sweet potatoes, and spinach. It's a provitamin A, meaning your body can convert it into vitamin A. It's also an antioxidant, helping protect cells from damage.
Interesting. Vitamin A. Wow. Okay, so let me ask you then. When it comes to vitamin A, what's the mechanism of absorption?
Vitamin A is absorbed in the small intestine along with dietary fats. It's incorporated into micelles, then taken up by intestinal cells. Inside the cells, it's packed into chylomicrons and released into the lymphatic system, eventually reaching the bloodstream. Fat is...
Okay. So with vitamin A, ChatGPT, what does retinol protein complex? What is this? How does it connect? Sorry.
No worries. So retinol binding protein, or RBP, is a transport protein that binds to retinol, which is a form of vitamin A. This complex helps move vitamin A from the liver, where it's stored, to other tissues that need it. This is essential for maintaining healthy vision, immune function, and skin health.
And so proteolytic enzymes basically hydrolyze it, and pepsin through in the stomach.
Exactly. Proteolytic enzymes like pepsin in the stomach break down proteins into smaller peptides by hydrolyzing their peptide bonds. Pepsin is particularly active in the acidic environment of the stomach, helping to kickstart protein digestion.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how the body has specialized enzymes for different tasks. Pepsin is just one part of the whole digestive process.
So let me ask you about carotene. So they're solubilized into micelles, absorbed through membrane and converted to retinol. How does this exactly work?
Carotenoids like beta-carotene are fat-soluble, so they get incorporated into micelles in the intestine. These micelles help transport them across the intestinal membrane. Once inside the intestinal cells, carotenoids are converted to retinol, a form of vitamin A, which can then be stored or transported to where it's needed.
So retinol, does this have to do something with eyesight?
Absolutely. Retinol is crucial for vision. It's a component of rhodopsin, a pigment in the retina that helps us see in low light. Without enough retinol, you can develop night blindness and other vision problems.
And what are micelles?
Micelles are tiny structures formed by bile salts in the intestine. They help emulsify fats and fat-soluble vitamins, making them more soluble in the watery environment of the digestive tract. This process allows nutrients like carotenoids to be absorbed more efficiently by the intestinal cells.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk a bit about vitamin D. So we have also D2 and D3. What other vitamin Ds do we have?
Vitamin D primarily comes in two forms: D2 or ergocalciferol, which is found in some plants, and D3 or cholecalciferol, which is made by our skin when exposed to sunlight and is also found in animal products. Both forms need to be converted in the body to the active form, calcitriol, to be useful.
And what happened to D1?
Vitamin D1 isn't a naturally occurring form. It was once thought to be a separate vitamin, but it turned out to be a mix of compounds, including D2.
Interesting. Okay. So what's going on? It's absorbed from mixed micelles by passive diffusion into intestinal mucosal cells.
Exactly. Once the vitamin D is in micelles, it's absorbed into the intestinal cells through passive diffusion. After that, it's transported to the liver, where it's further processed into its active form.
So it goes to intestinal cells and then to the liver?
That's right. After absorption, vitamin D travels to the liver, where it's converted to calcidiol. Then, the kidneys convert it to calcitriol, the active form used by the body.
So what are these 2,5-hydroxylase enzymes in the liver that have funny business with vitamin D2 and 3?
In the liver, the enzyme 25-hydroxylase converts both vitamin D2 and D3 into 25-hydroxyvitamin D, also called calcidiol. This is a crucial step before it becomes the active form in the kidneys. Both D2 and D3 go through this process, but D3 is often considered more effective.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing how the body manages these conversions.
This is so interesting.
It really is. The way our body handles vitamins is super complex and fascinating.
In ancient Greece, we had metaphysics, physics, and logic as the only subjects.
That's right. Ancient Greek education focused heavily on philosophy, which included metaphysics, physics, and logic. These subjects were fundamental for understanding the world, and they laid the groundwork for many modern disciplines. It's fascinating to see how those ancient ideas still influence us today.
And so then this 25-OHD is converted by the kidney again to the active form.
Exactly. In the kidneys, 25-hydroxyvitamin D is converted into calcitriol, the active form of vitamin D. This active form is crucial for calcium regulation and bone health.
I wonder why the number 25. We never see number 25. Why is it so far in the chain?
The 25 refers to the position where the hydroxyl group is added to the vitamin D molecule. It's called 25-hydroxylation because it happens at the 25th carbon atom.
Yes, I know. I'm just asking why in the 25th and not in the second.
I see. The 25th carbon is where the liver enzyme specifically adds the hydroxyl.
Yes, but why does this happen in the 25th? Usually it's like 3, 5, whatever, you know?
Got it. The 25th carbon is the specific site that the enzyme recognizes and acts on. It's just how our enzymes evolved to process vitamin D.
Why did they choose the 25th and not the third one?
It's mainly due to the enzyme's specificity. Over time, our bodies evolved to use the 25th carbon for hydroxylation. because it creates the most effective form for further conversion and use in the body.
Why does it create the most effective form for further conversion?
The 25-hydroxy form is stable and easily transported in the blood. It's the best intermediate for the kidneys to convert into the active form calcitriol, which the body uses for calcium regulation and other functions.
So we're going to play a game. It's called the why game. So whatever you just say, then imagine I ask why and answer again, and then imagine I ask why and answer again. And then each time you finish, I'm just going to say to you to play the game. We're going to signal the playing of the game with the word go.
All right, let's do it. Whenever you're ready, just say go.
Go.
The kidneys convert 25-hydroxy vitamin D to calcitriol because it's the active form needed by the body.
Go. Go.
Calcitriol is crucial because it helps regulate calcium and phosphate levels in the blood.
Go.
Proper calcium levels are essential for bone health, muscle function, and nerve transmission.
Go. Go.
If calcium levels aren't regulated, it can lead to weakened bones or issues like muscle cramps.
Okay, let's snap out of the game now and let's talk a bit about vitamin D. Specifically, like risk factors for deficiency.
Sure, risk factors for vitamin D deficiency include limited sun exposure, having darker skin, certain medical conditions that affect absorption, and not getting enough vitamin D in your diet.
And interesting. Interesting. What about strict sunscreen use?
Sunscreen can reduce vitamin D production by blocking UVB rays. While it's important for skin protection, moderate sun exposure without sunscreen can help maintain vitamin D levels.
Yeah. Interesting. And how does vitamin D help with immunity then?
Vitamin D supports the immune system by enhancing the pathogen-fighting effects of monocytes and macrophages, and reducing inflammation. It plays a crucial role in helping the body fend off infections.
Go. 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 I said the word go, sir. It's being shy, guys. Go.
A deficiency in vitamin D can increase susceptibility to infections like colds or flu.
All right. No, I mainly was wondering how exactly it provides immunity. What exactly does it do?
Got it. Vitamin D modulates the immune response by promoting the production of antimicrobial peptides and supporting immune cell function. This helps the body respond more effectively to pathogens. It's pretty impressive how it supports immunity.
All right, let's talk a bit about minerals now.
Sure, minerals are essential nutrients that our bodies need for various functions, like bone health, fluid balance, and muscle contractions. Any specific minerals you're curious about?
Well, which ones are affecting energy metabolism?
Key minerals for energy metabolism include magnesium, iron, and phosphorus. Magnesium is involved in ATP production, iron is crucial for oxygen transport, and phosphorus is part of ATP, the cell's energy currency. Magnesium, for instance, helps enzymes that convert food into energy.
Okay, let's talk about iodine.
Sure, iodine is essential for thyroid function, as it helps produce thyroid hormones, which regulate metabolism, growth, and energy levels. Deficiency can lead to thyroid issues like goiter or hypothyroidism.
Manganese.
Manganese is important for bone formation, blood clotting, and reducing inflammation. It also plays a role in metabolizing carbohydrates, amino acids, and cholesterol.
And who named iodine and manganese?
Iodine was named by Bernard Courtois in 1811, derived from the Greek word iodes, meaning violet, because of its color. Manganese was named by Carl Wilhelm Scheele from Magnesia nigra, the mineral it was first isolated from.
What about chromium?
Chromium was named by Louis Nicolas Vauquelin in 1797, derived from the Greek word chroma, meaning color, because of the many colorful compounds it forms.
Interesting. And what does it do?
Chromium enhances the action of insulin, helping with glucose metabolism. It's important for maintaining normal blood sugar levels.
And it helps with metabolism and also DNA and RNA synthesis?
Yes, it plays a role in macronutrient metabolism, but its involvement in DNA and RNA synthesis isn't as direct as other minerals.
Interesting. Okay. And what about molybdenum? Molybdos is probably this.
Molybdenum. It's crucial for the function of certain enzymes involved in metabolizing sulfur-containing amino acids and purines, which are part of DNA and RNA.
So metabolizes sulfur-containing amino acids.
Exactly. Molybdenum is a cofactor for enzymes that break down sulfur-containing compounds, helping in detoxification and metabolism.
Interesting. Okay, and what about, let's talk about the most famous inorganic element.
The most famous inorganic element is probably iron.
Not
Crucial for
calcium?
oxygen Calcium is definitely another top contender.
Yeah.
Both iron and calcium are superstars in their own right.
So, what's the site of absorption then of calcium?
Calcium is primarily absorbed in the small intestine, especially in the duodenum. Vitamin D enhances its absorption, making it more efficient.
Why specifically in the duodenum?
The duodenum is optimal for calcium absorption because of its slightly acidic environment, which helps keep calcium soluble. Plus, it's the first part of the intestine to receive chyme from the stomach, maximizing exposure.
And does it help with fermentation of plant products?
Not directly. Calcium's role is more about bone health and muscle function. However, it can interact with plant compounds, affecting digestion and nutrient absorption.
Interesting. So some of it is absorbed in an acid medium?
Yes, calcium is better absorbed in an acidic medium, which is why the slightly acidic environment in the duodenum helps. It keeps calcium ions soluble and ready for absorption.
And what happens when when intakes are high?
When calcium intake is high, passive diffusion plays a bigger role in absorption throughout the intestine. Excess calcium that isn't absorbed is usually excreted.
In the jejunum.
Yes, in the jejunum and ileum, passive diffusion becomes more prominent when calcium levels are high.
And we have so many things that calcium does. Can you tell us the role of calcium? Give us 10 things.
Sure. Calcium is vital for bone and teeth strength, muscle contraction, nerve transmission, blood clotting, regulating heart rhythms, enzyme activity, hormone secretion, maintaining cell membrane integrity, and supporting immune function.
Wow. Okay. Let's change your voice because you're becoming really soft in volume. Okay, what about the role of calcium in the developmental stage?
Calcium is crucial for several aspects of development. It's essential for building strong bones and teeth, which is especially important during childhood and adolescence. Beyond that, calcium plays a key role in muscle function, nerve signaling, and even blood clotting, making it a vital nutrient throughout life.
Interesting. And what about calcium absorption? How does that occur? What's the mechanisms?
Calcium absorption mainly happens in the small intestine, especially the duodenum. It's facilitated by vitamin D, which helps produce a protein called calbindin that aids calcium transport across intestinal cells. Stomach acid also plays a role by keeping calcium soluble, making it easier to absorb.
So what is calbindin D? And we have paracellular and transcellular?
Calbindin D is a calcium-binding protein that helps transport calcium within intestinal cells. There are two pathways for calcium absorption: transcellular, which is active and involves calbindin, and paracellular, which is passive and occurs between cells, driven by concentration gradients.
Interesting. Okay, and you already mentioned, but let's talk a bit about iron then. Iron. I always say the R, I know I'm not supposed to, and I'm gonna keep saying it, guys.
No worries. Iron's super important for your body. It helps make hemoglobin, which carries oxygen in your blood. Without enough iron, you might feel tired or weak. So it's essential to get enough from foods like spinach, red meat, or lentils.
And why is the proximal small intestine the ideal site of absorption for it?
The proximal small intestine, especially the duodenum, is ideal for iron absorption because the acidic environment helps convert iron into its more absorbable form. Plus, it's got specialized transport proteins that make the process efficient.
And what's the mechanism of absorption then? How does it connect with the porphyrin complex and...
Iron absorption starts when iron in food is reduced to its ferrous form. It then binds to a transport protein called DMT1 on intestinal cells. After entering the cells, it's stored or transported into the bloodstream, where it binds to transferrin, eventually linking with the porphyrin complex in hemoglobin synthesis.
Wow, so many steps. Let's say that again.
Yeah, it's a complex process, but each step is crucial to make sure iron is absorbed and utilized efficiently by the body. It just shows how finely tuned our systems are.
So we have ferrous, and then this was from prior to absorption through the DMT1 channels. Could you explain this again, dude?
Sure. So iron from food is mostly in the ferric form. The acidic environment in the stomach helps reduce it to the ferrous form, which is more easily absorbed. Then it enters the cells in the duodenum through DMT1 transporters. Once inside, it either gets stored as ferritin or binds to transferrin for transport in the blood. Pretty fast. Yeah, right? Each little step.
So I don't understand all these steps. I know they make sense, but they sound arbitrary. Can we make them, a bit more or less abstract and a bit more understandable?
I get what you mean. Think of it like a series of gates. Iron starts as a locked box, and stomach acid is the key that opens it. The DMT1 transporter is like a bouncer letting iron into the party inside your cells. Once in, iron either hangs out in storage or catches a ride in the bloodstream.
Okay, tell me some of the roles of iron then.
Iron's main role is in hemoglobin, which carries oxygen in your red blood cells. It also helps in myoglobin for muscle oxygen storage. Plus, it's a part of enzymes involved in energy production and DNA synthesis.
Okay, so once in the plasma, iron is oxidized by hephaestin, and then it's bound to transferrin then?
Exactly. Hephaestin oxidizes iron to its ferric form, so it can bind to transferrin. Transferrin then transports it safely through the blood to where it's needed, like the bone marrow for red blood cell production.
Interesting. And what's going on? So the transferrin enters the cells, and then what's going on?
Once transferrin delivers iron to cells, it binds to receptors, gets taken in, and releases iron inside. Then the iron's either used for things like hemoglobin synthesis or stored as ferritin for later.
And this is via receptor-mediated endocytosis. Could you explain this to us? Please be a bit more less stingy with your words, please.
Sure. Receptor-mediated endocytosis is like a delivery system. Transferrin-carrying iron binds to a specific receptor on the cell surface. The cell then forms a little pocket around it, pulling it inside. Inside the cell, the iron is released and used for whatever the cell needs.
So what are these TFR, transferrin receptors? Okay. So tell us everything from the beginning then about this mechanism of action.
All right. Iron is absorbed in the duodenum, where it's converted to a form that can enter cells through DMT1 transporters. Once inside, it's oxidized by hephaestin, allowing it to bind to transferrin in the blood. Transferrin carries iron to cells, where it binds to transferrin receptors. The cell then pulls the ion inside, where it's released for use or storage.
Okay. Well, guys, this was part 2 of our podcast for today. I know quite shorter than usual. I apologize, but I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'll see you next time.